Okay, let's unpack this. We are jumping right into quite a stack of sources today, detailing this high-stakes, almost unbelievably bizarre murder mystery.
It really is something. You've got Washington, D.C. political power players. You have huge amounts of missing money.
And then this completely, totally unsuspecting amateur detective. I mean, he's basically operating out of his house in suburban New Jersey.
Right. And what's so fascinating here is this collision course. You have Louis Gibson, a really prominent figure in conservative political circles, right? Head of the People for American Values Foundation.
A big name.
Huge. And he's suddenly found stabbed to death. And what immediately, elevates this from just a local D.C. crime to a national political scandal is the money.
The missing money.
Exactly. A staggering $13 million discovered skimmed from the foundation's accounts.
$13 million.
Yeah.
Just gone. And the job of figuring out who did it and where that money went, somehow it falls to the most unlikely person you could imagine, Aaron Tucker.
Yeah, Aaron, a freelance writer. His biggest professional challenge is usually like reviewing the latest home entertainment gear or maybe trying to sell screenplays that, well, don't often sell.
So how does he get pulled into this?
At his 25th high school reunion, of all places, in New Jersey.
Seriously?
Seriously. Because the victim's wife, Stephanie Jacobs Gibson, who happens to be Aaron's old high school crush, she's the one who convinces him to investigate.
Ah, the high school crush angle.
Always works, doesn't it? But there's also a massive payday involved for Aaron. We're talking $10,000 for a 5,000-word feature in Snapdragon magazine.
Okay, that's real money, especially if you're usually writing about, like, HDMI cables.
Exactly. That kind of cash doesn't just fall into your lap.
But the seeds of suspicion, they were planted right away, weren't they? Aaron noted that when Stephanie told him the news, right there at the reunion, about her husband's murder, she was, well, strikingly calm.
Very calm. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Why drag in a suburban writer who, specializes in amplifiers? Why not hire a seasoned PI? Or just rely on the D.C. police?
It screams control, right?
It immediately suggests control.
Yeah.
She wasn't looking for just any detective. She was looking for someone pliable, someone easily manipulated, maybe. A conduit she thought she could influence.
And we'll definitely see later just how deliberate that choice was.
Oh, yeah.
So let's get to the scene itself. Louis Gibson. Found stabbed. Single wound. 6-inch kitchen knife. In a D.C. apartment.
And the body's discovered by his mistress, Sherry Braxton. She claimed she was in the shower when it happened.
Convenient.
Very. And she described Louis pretty colorfully, didn't she? Called him not white bread boars. Gives you a little glimpse into the kind of life Louis was leading. Pretty high octane right up until, well...
Right up until the knife went in. So the initial physical evidence was pretty crucial. And Aaron, he immediately turns to his high school friends, his sort of informal brain trust for help.
Which is kind of charming, in a way. He ropes in his buddy, who's an osteopath, to weigh in on the forensics.
And what did he say?
Well, he noted the single stab wound was delivered straight to the chest, right through the heart. That takes, extreme force. Either a really strong person pushing that knife.
Or someone completely pumped up on adrenaline.
Exactly. Not a hesitant crime, not a struggle resulting in a lucky shot. It was deliberate.
And then another friend, a carpet expert of all things, analyzes the crime scene photos.
Yeah, Friedman, the carpet guy. He points out this dark, kind of stiff spot on the carpet near the bed.
Okay.
And his take was that it suggested the victim was actually stabbed while standing up, not lying down in bed.
How could he tell?
Blood spray patterns. If Louis had been stabbed lying down, the spray, the spatter, it would have looked totally different. Landed differently on the walls, the bedding.
So that changes things. It's not a surprise attack on a sleeping man. It's a confrontation, face to face.
Precisely. And then we get this really bizarre detail. Feels almost ripped from like a cold case file or something. DNA evidence. A single hair. Recovered at the scene.
Okay, that sounds promising for the investigation.
You'd think so. But it was later traced back to a convicted killer from Texas, Branford T. Purell.
Wait, what? A Texas killer's hair in a D.C. power lobbyist's apartment where he was murdered. How on earth?
Exactly. How does the hair of a West Texas convict end up there? That's where this story just takes a turn into the truly absurd, high-stakes political drama meets, well, something else entirely.
Okay, so Aaron starts digging for this Snapdragon feature, trying to make sense of it all. And then the real threats start hitting closer to home, back in New Jersey.
Right. He gets this cryptic phone call. Muffled voice, just says, "Back off, man."
Chilling, but vague.
Totally vague. But then it gets physical. An actual rock comes crashing through his bow window.
No way.
Yes way. Wrapped in a handkerchief with the word SOP just scrawled on it.
Wow. Okay, that's not subtle.
Not subtle at all.
Uh,
And these threats, understandably, they send his wife, Abby, who's a lawyer, into a bit of a tailspin.
I bet she probably thinks it's connected to her work.
Immediately. She suspects one of her own former clients, a guy named Preston Burke. He'd recently been exonerated in a shooting case after the real culprit, a lookalike named Waldrick Malone, was finally identified.
So she thinks maybe Burke holds a grudge or something.
Or someone connected to that case. But then the narrative just takes this hard left turn straight back into suburban life. Because this guy, Preston Burke, the suspected dangerous threat,
Yeah.
he turns out to be a contractor. And he actually ends up offering to fix Aaron's shattered window for $400.
You're kidding. The prime suspect offers to fix the window he supposedly broke.
It's perfect, isn't it? It just illustrates how completely out of his depth Aaron seems. He's investigating this massive D.C. conspiracy, and his main lead on the local threat wants to give him an estimate for window repair.
The disconnect is incredible. And that suburban chaos, it doesn't stop there, does it? There's the whole stink bomb situation.
The stink bombs. You have to appreciate Aaron's stage distraction here. While he's investigating a $13 million murder and getting rocks thrown through his window.
He's also moonlighting as a school detective.
Pretty much. His son, Ethan's school principal, Ann Mignano, tasks him with this highly discreet investigation. 3 separate stink bomb incidents. Boys' bathroom, the gymnasium, girls' locker room.
Oh my God, why him?
Because apparently it was causing huge friction. Connected parents were demanding action, and the principal wanted it handled quietly. So while he's dodging phone threats about a D.C. murder, he's also trying to sniff out which student.
It turned out to be Susan Mistroft, right?
Yep, Susan Mistroft. Trying to figure out who brought the, shall we say, noxious fumes to the high school. It just perfectly highlights his situation. Dealing with maybe the most powerful people in the country, but his mundane, everyday life is simultaneously collapsing around him in these absurd ways.
And maybe making him seem less threatening or more distractible.
Absolutely. The contrast is the whole point, I think.
Yeah.
He is highly distractible. He's susceptible to influence, juggling too many things, which you have to assume is exactly why Louis and Stephanie might have chosen him in the first place.
Okay, let's shift back to the core of the story here. The money, the $13 million.
Right. Aaron consults another friend, this one a finance expert, Alan McGregor.
The high school network comes through again.
It really does. McGregor analyzes the numbers, and he confirms, yes, $13 million was definitely skimmed from Louis Gibson's foundation. And crucially, it was locatable, even though Louis obviously tried to hide it.
Why was it locatable? You'd think embezzling from your own foundation would be easy to cover up.
Well, here's the fascinating irony. The People for American Values Foundation was set up as a nonprofit organization.
Okay,
So the very public nature of a nonprofit's books, the transparency required for them to keep their tax-exempt status, that's precisely what exposed the embezzlement eventually.
He used a structure designed for public good and transparency.
To hide his crime.
Yeah.
But that very transparency became his vulnerability if someone looked hard enough.
Which Aaron, pushed by the magazine deadline and maybe Stephanie, was doing. So the nonprofit status kind of doomed the plan from the start, assuming someone actually checked the public records.
Pretty much. McGregor even noted the money wasn't hidden with, like, exceptional genius or complexity. He estimated Louis could have engineered the whole skim in about 12 seconds if someone was distracted. It was more about audacity, maybe arrogance, than sophisticated financial maneuvering.
Okay, so the money trail is there. Meanwhile, what about Stephanie's alibi? Her movements around the time of the murder, she was at the reunion in New Jersey.
Right, and the alibi held up, physically speaking. Another friend, this one works at Newark Airport.
This guy has helpful friends.
Doesn't he? This friend confirmed it was possible. She could have flown from D.C. to Newark, rented a car, and driven to the reunion location in time.
There's always a but, isn't there?
There is. The logistics seem suspiciously complex, because the airport friend also noted Stephanie didn't show up in a rental. She was driving her own BMW with D.C. plates.
So how did her car get to New Jersey? She couldn't have driven it and flown.
Exactly. Yeah. It means she either had to arrange some complex transport for her vehicle beforehand, maybe have someone else drive it up, or maybe a second party was involved. It immediately makes her seemingly simple alibi look, well, complicated, raises red flags.
Definitely has another layer of doubt about her story. So the final pieces start coming from the family interviews, right?
Yeah. Aaron talks to Louis's brother, Lester, and their mother, Louis Gibson. And they are incredibly defensive.
Protecting the family name or something more?
Both, probably. Louis's mother, Louise, immediately showed her political bias, called Aaron one of the enemy just because he didn't share her son's conservative political views.
Wow. Hostile.
Very. The family circle was tight, intensely loyal, and clearly very politically charged. They were presenting this completely unified front.
But that front gets shattered, doesn't it?
It does, by Louis's younger son, Jason. He privately calls Aaron out of the blue.
What does he say?
He issues this really stark warning about his own mother and grandmother's testimony. He tells Aaron, and this quote is just chilling, he says, "Don't believe anything they tell you. Every word of it is a lie."
Whoa. From the victim's own son.
From the supposed victim's son. That's the moment, right? The moment the whole investigation has to pivot. Why would a son turn on his remaining family members like that? Because the entire premise, the idea that Louis Gibson was the victim,
It was all wrong.
completely wrong. It was based on a stunning, massive deception.
Louis Gibson wasn't the victim.
Nope, he was the killer. Louis Gibson is alive. He engineered the entire crime. He killed his own brother, Lester Gibson.
Good Lester.
Killed Lester, placed the body on the bed in that apartment, all to fake his own death. What? To cover up the $13 million embezzlement and disappear.
Oh my God. So the body they found, that was Lester.
That was Lester. And if you connect this back to the evidence, suddenly the weird pieces start falling into place. Louis apparently relied on his brother looking enough like him to fool, well, at least the initial identification.
But they don't look exactly alike, surely.
Not exactly. But Louis went to, frankly, theatrical lengths to make the disguise work. He confessed later that he removed Lester's toupee.
The toupee, that's where the hair came from.
Bingo. The toupee contained the DNA evidence, that random hair from the Texas convict Branford T. Purell. Maybe Lester picked it up somewhere, maybe it was planted, who knows, but Louis removes it.
Okay, that explains the hair. What else?
Then, to match his own height, because apparently Lester was shorter, Louis put 3-inch shoe lifts on his dead brother's feet.
Wait, seriously, a killer toupee and 3-inch shoe lifts. This sounds like something out of, I don't know, a really bad spy novel. Did he actually think that would fool the police long term?
Apparently so. Maybe he just needed it to hold up long enough for him to vanish with the money. And he had his motivation all worked out, which kind of explains the sheer force used in the stabbing, remember?
Right, the adrenaline or strength required.
Louis described his, well, twisted reason for killing his brother. He said Lester was self-satisfied, egotistical, ill-tempered, pompous.
So it wasn't just about the $13 million. It was personal, deeply personal.
It sounds like it. Maybe the ultimate, narcissistic act.
Yeah.
Eliminating someone he just found irritating, someone who was maybe inconveniently positioned to uncover the embezzlement or just stood in his way.
Unbelievable. And Stephanie, the grieving widow, the high school crush who started this whole thing for Aaron.
Fully complicit, completely in on it. Her whole act, insisting Aaron Tucker investigate it, purely calculated. She needed, in her words, insurance.
Insurance. How?
She needed Aaron to be her eyes and ears, to gather information on what the police were doing, what they knew, and more importantly, to control which way the press was going by feeding him her preferred narrative.
Using him as a mouthpiece.
Exactly. Even her attempt to seduce him later on, that was just part of the manipulation, part of keeping him close, keeping him on side.
She targeted him from the start at the reunion, using that moment of supposed grief.
Precisely. Targeted the one person she knew would be maybe a little starstruck, definitely desperate for that $10,000 fee, and maybe not experienced enough to see through the act. The real genius of the crime, arguably, wasn't the fake death itself, but the selection of the investigator.
So how did it all finally unravel? How did they catch Louis?
The whole charade just came crashing down. Louis, still playing the part of someone else, I suppose, arranged to meet Aaron in a New Brunswick hotel room back in New Jersey.
He came back? Why?
Maybe overconfidence? Maybe to tie up loose ends? He arrived wearing a dark trench coat, glasses, and apparently an awful toupee. And he was armed. He had a gun.
A confrontation.
A big one. And during that confrontation, Louis, maybe just overcome by his own arrogance, needing to boast, needing to tell his side, he confessed. Everything.
The whole thing. The murder, the money.
Right down to the financial details. He even revealed that his own mother, Louise Gibson, the woman who called Aaron the enemy, she was in on it too. She was actively laundering the embezzled money for him.
The whole family, except the son Jason, was involved.
It seems like it. But fortunately for Aaron, and for justice, I suppose, His little recording device was running the whole time.
He got it all on tape.
The entire detailed confession.
Yeah.
He notified the police. Louis was arrested right then and there. Stephanie, obviously completely complicit in the murder plot. She was detained, faced charges. The $13 million mystery solved, thanks to the reluctant detective from New Jersey.
Wow. Just wow. So what does this all mean for you, the listener, trying to wrap your head around this? I mean, the reality of the murder of this powerful political guy killing his own brother for $13 million, faking his death, and using a low-ranking freelance writer as essentially a pawn.
It was just far more complex, far more devious, and frankly more domestic and sordid than the initial political scandal ever suggested.
Yeah.
It was really a case of a greedy, nasty family murder masquerading as high-level political intrigue.
And the final insight here, I think, has to be about Aaron Tucker's character. Despite all his obvious flaws, right? Getting distracted by stink bombs, adopting a dog named Warren, he didn't even want that immediately peed on his office rug. Let's not forget being completely manipulated by his high school crush for months.
Right. Despite all that, he ultimately upheld his integrity, didn't he?
Yeah.
He got the evidence, he recorded the confession, he refused to compromise his principles, which is certainly far more than we can say for the Gibsons, who had all the money and power in the world and used it for, well,
Yeah.
for this.
Absolutely. And it makes you think this whole insane high-stakes drama, the $13 million, the staged death, the killer toupee, the Texas convict's hair, it all kicked off when a powerful, famous man, Louis Gibson, completely underestimated a freelance writer, a guy who usually just reviewed home entertainment systems.
Yeah.
So here's something maybe for you to mull over.
Yeah.
What value does a seemingly insignificant person, someone easily dismissed, actually hold? Especially when they're placed, maybe accidentally, in a position of critical observation, right? When powerful people are working furiously to manipulate the entire narrative around them.